Good afternoon, this is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding, here to discuss the basics of the much more common IRS letters 6185 and 6291 involving soft letters, notices from the IRS, and what you can do about it. So when you're dealing with the IRS, getting a notice is never fun, right? There's various different types of notices you can get. You might get an examination notice, you might get a penalty notice like a CP15, but more often than not these days, you may receive what's called a soft letter. A soft letter is it's like a gentle reminder from the IRS. They're very common in cryptocurrency, and they're very common in FATCA. FATCA is the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. The U.S. has entered into agreements with more than 110 countries and 300,000 foreign financial institutions. It's not like the IRS is just going to run around and audit everyone based on every piece of information they get, but they want to put taxpayers on notice, for example, if they get some information that isn't the same as the information that they have on file. So let's go through some of the basics. Oftentimes a taxpayer will reach out to us and say, hey, I got this notice, I don't know what to do. Well, it's not really a notice. I got this letter, I don't know what to do about it. Take a look at it and it might say something like, hey, under FATCA, for example, you're considered a U.S. person, specified person, and therefore you have these assets, bank XYZ in country T has reported that you have ownership in these accounts. When we look at your tax return, we don't have that information. Or a lot of times what will happen is taxpayer reported on FATCA Form 8938, but didn't report accurately. For example, in other countries, the way that financial products are set up are much different. Very common to have wrappers. And so if you have an account at an institution, you may have 8 to 15 different accounts, sub-accounts underneath it. If that institution is reporting all of that information to the IRS may think that you have more accounts than you actually do. You're thinking, well, why can't I just report the main account since all of the money is aggregated and totaled up under the main account? It's because you're dealing with the IRS, not the most well-oiled machine. Other situations can be that someone else reported under FATCA or FBAR, or some other international information reporting form, and they may have identified you as a joint account holder, let's say, but you never reported. And so as a result, now the IRS wants to know, hey, Joe is reporting that Jane is on the account with him. How come Jane hasn't reported as well? So the trick about the soft letter is that most of the time you don't have to directly respond to the letter itself, but the letter will give you options, and oftentimes the options will be to enter into one of the voluntary disclosure programs, streamline delinquency, submit a reasonable cause statement. Taxpayers have to realize that while there's no set response date, if the IRS gets to you first and audits or examines you before you have a chance to enter into one of these programs, you lose the opportunity to do the program. In other words, in order to get into the streamline program, for example, you can't be under audit. So if you get one of these notices, it doesn't mean the IRS is gonna audit you tomorrow, but based on the letter, it shows that the IRS has some mismatch information. And then, if you're audited for another reason, like let's say you're an independent consultant and your expenses and deduction seems a little high, and you're under audit anyway, or you're about to be under audit, and this could be the catalyst to push it over, and now you've lost the opportunity to do it. If you don't do one of the disclosure programs and instead you're audited, chances are the penalties are going to be significantly higher. Trying to show reasonable cause in an audit is different than doing it preemptively. Streamlined procedure, penalty reduction to 5% or 0, depending if you qualify as a foreign resident. You don't get that same benefit ordinarily when you're going through an audit. It's not impossible, but it's not as easy. There's various programs. If you've gotten one of these letters or you're otherwise out of compliance, there's the voluntary disclosure program, which is for people who are willful or just can't certify under penalty of perjury that they're non-willful. There are the streamlined filing compliance procedure program, streamlined domestic for U.S. residents or non-foreign residents, streamlined foreign for foreign residents. You've got the delinquency procedures and reasonable cause. We have lots of free information available on our main websites and all of our sub-websites that we developed on specific issues such as FBAR 8938, PFIC, etc., etc. You can always reach out and schedule a reduced fee initial consultation if you think it's appropriate. Again, my name is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.